Hey, good morning. Chuck here with Apple Drains. This is a Saturday morning and I'm doing live help in Zoom. And this is where we do live video consultation one-on-one with homeowners and DIYers from around the world. And I've got one here that you just got to see. This is an exterior waterproofing problem. And what I'd like you to see is how much work it actually takes to do an exterior job. Homeowner's name is Tiffany Nicole. She lives in California, just north of Berkeley. Let's take a look and see how much work it really takes to dig down an exterior wall in a clay soil done by hand, because you'll see why as you get into this. But let's take a look, and I want you to meet Tiffany Nicole, and we'll walk through this whole job. And she needed reassurance that this was being done properly because she's spending so much money to do this. And you know, owning a home in California, you know it's very expensive to do all this work and pay a company to do it. You'd probably be looking at $60,000 to $80,000 to do this the proper way. But let's get started into the video. Hey,
Hi.
Tiffany.
Oh wait, trying to say there. There. I'll
That's better.
Okay.
So
I'm gonna try not to push that button.
it's okay. I'm giving a consultation to Tiffany, and she's in Martinez, California. I think that's like north of San Francisco. Is that right? Yeah.
hmm
Okay.
About 20
And,
minutes from Berkeley, Oakland.
oh, okay. You're from right close by, and you're on the other side of the bay. And there was one thing that I had forgot to mention before was, you know, you're actually on a fault line, and you probably already know that. I've given lots of those consultations there with crawl spaces, especially down in Berkeley, and it seems like that fault line does run right through that area. So that could affect some of your waterproofing problems, but not that much, you know, in that way. But just keep that in mind too. And what she's got a flooding basement, and she has hired, was it a handyman?
Yes.
To
Yes.
do all this excavation. And wow, has this guy done some work. And that's what I wanted you guys to see, what it really takes to, you know, waterproof an exterior of a basement, because this is a lot of work. And we're going to start right here in the corner where there is the footer pipe, the footer trench, and it's right along the footer. And as we go down here to the bottom here, we're going to see a very old style footer. It's actually bricks. Can you see the bricks right there? And this home was built, when was the home built?
1930.
1930,
38.
36. So this is typical of that era of building. She's got two different kinds of foundation here. One is this brick, and then she also has, it looks like a poured foundation, and we'll see that here in just a second. But you can see they've tunneled underneath the retaining wall, and it goes all the way around the perimeter. And we're looking at the driveway side of the house. So yeah, we can just walk around and just show the areas. Yeah. And again, you can see there's a wall that they went under there as well. And it continues all the way around the home. Let's go inside since you're right there. Let's go inside so they can see the damage and the problem that you have. You can see that floor right away. There's been water damage here for many, many years. There's a lot of hydrostatic pressure under that floor, and it's causing, what you're seeing is the pitting of that floor. So the water's been pushing up through that floor for many years. And I'll let Tiffany talk to you now. The water's coming through the wall, and she can tell you where.
It's coming in through the wall and then definitely up from the floor, as you were saying,
Yeah,
during substantial rains, like through the cracks. It just, you can literally see the floor moving and it squishes, for lack of a better word.
that's
Um,
right.
Also, from this back wall, this was all completely covered, but again, due to water damage, and then which led to mold, and as you can see here, like the growth of mushrooms. Disgusting. That is where the primary water intrusion happens. But again, of course, when there's substantial rain, and then even if there isn't, if it's just like the slightest rainfall, it gets wet here.
And so while we're right here inside, we had talked about this also, is that little knee-high wall. And if we go over to that little knee-high wall, you'll notice that there's block and then there is concrete poured across there. And what's happening here is that that water is trapped between the actual exterior wall, which is the white wall behind that, and the knee-high wall. And they tried to fix, hide all that by putting concrete across that. And I shouldn't say the word hide. They just tried to make it clean, trying to keep moisture out of that basement. But you can see how much pressure is in that between those two walls. It cracked that concrete, cracked the foundation wall, the inside wall. So much water pressure here. And this is hydrostatic pressure. It's all coming from outside. And as it rains, that water comes down and it floods up, builds up pressure, and you can see the damage that it does to the concrete. Very powerful. Water is very, very powerful. And we talked about how to fix this if needed, that you may need to put a footer system between those two walls and have a sump pump inside the basement there. But hopefully everything here on the outside, as we go back out again, you'll see that how much work they've done here. And I think they can solve this on the outside. So she's walking back outside right now. We're just going to walk around the whole house so that you can see this. And while we come, in fact, let's go straight out to the street from here. This is her discharge coming out. And she had a question about the discharge that she asked me in the email. So where that T will be as she turns around and steps out into the street just a little bit, you'll see the discharge. And they're bringing this to daylight all the way from the footer pipe at the garage door all the way out here to the street. And they actually have fall to get out to the street. She asked me, where does the solid pipe go? So from that T at the wall, that's going to be solid pipe. That's where she'll connect the solid pipe, because we've collected the water and now we want to discharge that water. We want to keep it. So this becomes 4-inch solid pipe out here to the front. And she could use a pop-up, but better would just be to cut that off at an angle and leave it an open drain, because if you use the pop-up, it's going to turn and you lose a couple of inches of fall. And she needs as much fall as possible away from the area. So as she goes up these stairs, and I'm just talking, we're trying to just kind of make a video. Tiffany has COVID right now, and she's out here walking around. And she told me she has a pretty mild case, but still, it's just amazing that she's able to do all this. So you can see the little 6-foot ladder, or maybe that's an 8-foot ladder, probably a 6-foot, how deep that excavation actually is. And as we look down in the trench, you'll see they've already laid some pipe down here. And one of the things I wanted to make sure, and she wanted to make sure, is make sure that this is at the footer level. And you hear me say this many times, all the time. To solve the basement problem or a crawl space problem, you have to be down below the floor. You'll also notice that they've got a perforated pipe with the holes pointing upwards. That could just be there because that's how they set it for right now. And they may turn those back so they point down, but they need to point down into the gravel. There's going to be a base of gravel under that perforated pipe that allows the water to flood up and into the system. And another question she had was, should she wrap this in fabric? My answer is no. Do not wrap this in fabric. Go ahead and put the base of gravel, cover the pipe with more gravel, at least a foot, 2 feet would be better, and then put a layer of geofabric across the top of that gravel to keep the dirt from dropping straight down in. But you're not going to have any real problem with dirt clogging that rock, even then it's still going to work just fine. So, but look at all the excavation that she's done here. And also notice that there's 2 different types of wall here. We've got a block wall, and then you can see there's a poured foundation underneath of this. That needs to be cleaned off and sealed with liquid rubber. That's what I would suggest. And these guys that are doing this work, they suggested using dimple board, and that works good too. Will just help that water drop down into the trench. But the dimple board has to come up a couple of inches above the finished grade for it to work properly. And how long have they been working on this?
About 2 weeks.
2 weeks. I mean, it took 2 weeks. How many guys were there?
Three.
Three guys, all digging by hand, and they've done a great job of excavation. Where did they take all that dirt, Tiffany?
Oh, you mean this
Okay.
dirt?
Okay, they mounded it up. Okay, I didn't know if they hauled it away or not.
A concrete sidewalk, so this that you see here wrapped all the way around underneath the patio and came out on the other side. So they did have to remove that concrete, and that was taken away.
Yeah, I mean wow, they had to jackhammer all that out. So that's just a pad for the air conditioner that's right there.
Yeah, we left that piece.
That's perfect. And you can see the downspouts, and those were hooked up before, and they will be rehooked up again and separate from this system. Wherever they're discharging, they need to go separate from the system. If they want to put a new pipe in there, it can go down into the trench at any level as they backfill, as long as it's downhill, and still go to. And again, there's two different foundations here. You can see this one's block, and then looks like there's a layer of, I think that somebody had dug this basement out. In other words, I think it was probably a crawl space at one time, and they dug it all out to make it deeper and be able to get inside of there with a car, or just have headroom inside. Because you can see what looks like a footer. It may not be, but it looks like a footer. Or maybe they just didn't scrape up to the wall. I'm not sure on that one. But yes, they did a tremendous job. Tiffany's real question, she wants to be sure that, it's done right and not have to dig this all up again and do this in the future. Money is a big issue. She's got a great price for what they're doing this for, but money is a big issue, but it's more, doing it again. Wow, you don't want to do this again.
We don't have to.
Right, you don't want to do it at all, but yeah. I really think this is going to solve your problem. We also talked about what if it doesn't solve the problem, and that's where we talk about cutting that basement floor, and it's exactly the same thing as the outside. Yeah, great. While you're over here, let's look at these materials. So on your list, can you grab that piece of pipe that's got holes in it? Can you grab a hold of that, the perforated pipe?
Okay.
Yeah, and twist it around where you can see the letters, the print on the pipe. Okay, so right there. So this is SDR 35 4-inch perforated pipe. So this is not a thin-walled PVC, and it's not Schedule 40. And this is what I would recommend for this type of depth, where you got so much weight on top of that pipe. SDR 35 usually is green, but it can be white. This is much stronger than the thin wall PVC, which is only rated at 3,000 pound crush. This one is much stronger, great pipe, and everything here is looking really good. So that's good. That was on your Excel sheet, so I wanted to make sure that you understood why they bought that. Perfect pipe. The pipe right below that, you can see that is a triple walled pipe. Yeah, and on the inside of that, it's probably black. Can you see the end of can you look inside of it? It should be a layer of ABS, yeah. So there's another layer of, it's actually, I can't even pronounce the word, ABS. It stands for a very long word, but it is just an HDPE plastic. And again, you can see it's 3,000 pound crush, but they're not using this for the perforated pipe, which goes around the perimeter. They're using this for the discharge, which is fine, or the downspout drains. This is perfect.
Here's the...
Right. So that's dimple board, and you can see there's a felt cloth, and there's little holes that stick into the cloth. There's little bumps that come out, little nipples, hundreds of them. And what they'll do with this is attach that to the wall, so that as water comes down the wall, it actually goes down that dimple board, through the felt, down into the trench below. I don't always recommend this, but this is perfect for that two different types of foundations that they've joined together, and it will really help a lot. so that she's got all the materials there. She's really ready to finish this trench. And what she's going to do is make sure that those guys are at the footer level. Real important, remember that brick that we showed you in the beginning of this video. Very important to find out if that is the bottom of the footer, because that's not the best footer, but it is still very strong and it will work just fine. But if it is those bricks, that dimple board is a must, because it will make sure that no water gets through between the block and the brick. It's a very good product to use. And if you can get your camera to really zoom in on the end of that where the gravel and perforated pipe is. So I want you to see something here. It's very important. Notice how the gravel is wrapped around that pipe, and it looks like they actually put fabric around the pipe to keep the debris out of the pipe. But what's interesting to note is that gravel is actually very clean. Debris has not clogged any of that rock, any of the voids. Water still penetrates through the gravel, and there's evidence of that because there's so much damage against that foundation wall where the water has leaked down from this system because it's not deep enough. And I'm sorry I'm losing my voice too, because I've been on this consultations all day. But she's got so many interesting things that are good to see. Also, while you're right there, can you see the crack in the corner? See the crack in the corner? You can see that going through the block and all the way down. And again, that kind of looks like it's been stuccoed. In other words, a top coat put around the foundation, and water has gotten in between the stucco and the footer or the foundation wall and just pushed it off. The crack is because there's movement in the footer. So when that footer moves, concrete will crack. Inside the house, you'll see evidence of it with cracking in your sheetrock. And the doors won't open and close properly. Those are extremes, but that's how bad it can get. So yeah, there's a lot of information here of how things look when you excavate, and you're going to see all these, and it's just, these are good things to find when you dig it out, because you know you're going in the right direction. So yeah, let's go back inside, and that'll really kind of finish it, just to look inside there and talk about if it doesn't work. Which I know that it's going to work. I feel that they're doing a great job.
Awesome. That is exactly what I wanted to hear.
and again, that's why Tiffany wanted to do the consultation, was she just wanted some reassurance, because she's talked to many people, and everybody has a different idea of how to do this, and they all would work no matter what, but to get as much as done as possible while that trench is exposed is really important. And it's nice that she has a gravel driveway, because that makes this a little bit easier rather than have to cut concrete. Inside, if this system on the outside didn't work, you've probably seen or had talked to people about cutting the basement floor, and that's fine. That works just the same as the outside. A concrete saw is used, about a foot wide trench, and you cut out 1 foot section all the way around the perimeter on the inside. Dig it down so that you're at the footer level below the floor. Install perforated pipe and gravel. It would lead, she's got gravity and could go straight out. If you don't, it would go to a sump pump, lift it up, and send it out through the wall up higher. But very simple to do. It's a little bit less costly than the outside, but the outside, wow, if you can seal that exterior foundation, it's much better route than the inside. Yeah, I'm really losing my voice. I can hear it.
And what you recommend? I joined the club. This was the area that you recommend, kind of this shallow trench that was added, like making this the deeper trench around the perimeter. Is that right?
Correct. It still needs to be saw cut about a foot from that wall. So that would all be removed. Just more concrete is going to cut out. The reason they put that there is because it was leaking. This is probably the original problem right here along this wall as it goes back to the back. And they tried to make a channel for the water as it comes through and drain it away. However, and I'm sure that the water does come through there, but the water's under that. It's under the floor and it's pressure pushing upwards. So that
Right.
did not solve anything other than relieve some of the water that she sees on the floor. But when she shows you those mushrooms again, you know that there's so much water here. And of course, mold and algae, mushrooms, they're going to grow on anything organic, which is that wood, even if it's pressure treated. That's what's going to happen.
And this was all cleaned up about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Wow.
So what you're seeing here is new growth.
That's pretty normal.
The fourth time, once this gets cleaned again, the fourth time I've had to have remediation done.
Don't do any more remediation until they're finished. And then hopefully, like I said, I do think the more that we talk about it, that between those two walls, I really think you might need to put a footer system. Dig down along the inside of that wall and put that same system. You'll need a pump to lift it up and send it out. Tie it into a downspout if you can, because there's so much water trapped between there. Basically, there's two exterior walls, and you could call this a crawl space. Even though it doesn't look like a crawl space, this is common. Where a crawl space and a basement come together, this is what happens. You've got water trapped between two walls, and the only way to really remove that is to dig down to the footer and put the system in, pump, lift it up and out. Hopefully that made sense. And I'll make a still, we'll freeze the video. What we're talking about doing is actually putting the French drain behind that knee-high wall down below the floor at the same footer level. And then there would be a sump pump that's going to lift that water up and discharge it, out higher through the wall. Really simple, but a lot more work to do. Before you put the sheetrock back and remediation, let it rain and see what goes on. Make sure that this is done.
Okay. Really glad to hear that. And that's actually something that we talked about originally, not coming back behind this wall. Right. I think original plans was to do it in front of, but good to
freeze. Am I back?
Good to
know. You're back.
Oh,
kind of.
Okay.
You are.
I will look for the crushed white. Yeah, if you can include that in the email. In 10 seconds, I'm going to forget that.
I think I put it in your summary. If you look at the summary, I think I said number 67 stone. It doesn't say crushed wash, but number 67 stone that's what it's called. But regardless, there's so much of those videos out there. Basement waterproofing is hard to Google. It's very hard to find. You'll get the yard drains and French drains down south. There's a lot of those, but basement waterproofing is a tough one to find. So, again, if you want to keep Googling, you can, but I really think you should feel assured that they're doing that proper. That looks really good. Just make sure that they're at the footer level, and below the floor, and it will work. It will work. Thank you, Tiffany. And again, if you have any questions, you got the number, just call me.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a great afternoon.
I will. Back to bed.
Sign up for Live Help if you'd like. Information is down below in the description box. But more than that, keep your smile and watch more videos. Learn more about rainwater drainage. There's lots of channels out here today. Some of them are great, some of them aren't so good, but the information is really good. So take a look at that, and good luck with your project. I know you're going to do this, and it's going to be solved whether you pay somebody or you do it yourself. Hey, this is Chuck with Apple Drains, reminding you that if you believe you could do something, I guarantee you can do it. Have a great day.